back to Always Sunny in Hollywood.
Hello, my name is Red Drumarts. Today we are going to be talking about The Departed, which we've already seen. Unfortunately, two of our members couldn't make it today. Elias had a conflict in schedule, and Patrick didn't see the movie. So it's just going to be me and Lugia.
We'll do the best we can, but we're probably not going to talk about a whole lot.
Yep. Anyway, in terms of entertainment news, nothing really movie related happened. It was mostly just music.
All I
Daft
know is
Punk
that in
broke up.
terms of movies, not movies in general, but just like movie theaters have started opening up, or at least in New
Oh,
York.
yeah. I guess we live pretty close to there. I'm not seeing anything
I don't think
like
I'd want
that.
to go, given the current state of the world right now.
Yeah.
But I mean, for people who want to go to a movie theater again, you have an option, I guess.
I guess there is something kind of relevant. There was this clip that went viral from J.G. Quintel's newest cartoon, Close Enough, where they talk about superhero movies, and it's very clearly a direct call out against Martin Scorsese, who is the director we're going to be talking about this episode. So I think I'm much more of a comic book fan than you are, Lugia.
Yeah.
What do you think of comic book movies?
The ones I have seen are either pretty generic or they do a little something extra. Would you count
Yeah,
Scott Pilgrim vs. the World as a comic book movie?
I would, but I think what Scorsese was talking about was specifically the more modern MCU, DC
Okay, because
expanded
I'd
universe
put that in
stuff.
the latter.
Yeah, I wouldn't count my top 10 comic book movies is like the weirdest goddamn list. Actually, let me pull it up. I do have it on my letterboxd.
Okay.
Yeah, my top 10 comic book movies. Some of them, like the top five, make sense. You know, The Incredibles, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, Mask of the Phantasm, Spider-Man 2, Dark Knight. And then the
Half of
bottom
those I
half,
haven't seen.
yeah, and then the bottom half is Men in Black, Sin City, Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, The Adventures of Tintin and Logan, in a different order. I think I have Logan at seven, but yeah. Like some of those, I don't think they would count that as comic movies, especially Sin City. Most people compare Sin City to Pulp Fiction rather than other comic movies.
I can see the comparison.
I mean, yeah, I'm pretty sure Rodriguez and Tarantino are pretty close friends, and even like same with Edgar Wright. Like Edgar Wright, Robert Rodriguez, those are like actually respected directors. And the guy who directed Men in Black, he was the Coen Brothers cinematographer. So yeah, I'm pretty sure he's pretty respected too. Even James Gunn. Do you know what Trauma is?
No.
I'm gonna suggest a Trauma movie, but there's this company that made the Toxic Avenger. There's incredibly low budget,
Wait,
and
Toxic Avengers?
the Toxic Avenger. It's some B movie from like the 70s.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but it's a very popular B movie from the 70s, and James Gunn used to work with that company, so he used to make like a bunch of schlocky B movies, but like the kind of schlock that people like, intentional schlock. And comic book movies is very broad, so Scorsese was, I think, specifically talking about the MCU. I highly doubt he was talking about The Death of Stalin, which is a comic book movie. That's not a joke.
Wait, why? Why? What?
Road to Perdition is a comic book movie. That's a movie about Tom Hanks as a gangster and his son. It's like Lone Wolf and Cub, which is also a comic book movie, but that's anime, so that doesn't count. Um, but yeah, no, there's Snowpiercer, the Bong Joon Ho movie where Chris Evans is on a train. That's a comic book movie, technically. If you want to get even more technical, I guess you could argue like comic strip movies like Charlie Brown, and who doesn't like Charlie Brown? And
That's fair, yeah. I guess Captain
Ghost
Underpants would
World.
kind of fit that. That's more of a novel, but it's still
It's a
within that.
superhero movie. I'll count that. Yeah. Ghost
It's
World.
sort of within that realm.
Yeah, Ghost World. That's a weird movie. We can talk about that one week. Not this one though. Ninja Turtles. Hancock. All right. Well, anyway, yeah. Ultimately, I feel like people really misunderstood what Scorsese was saying. Like, people took it as a personal insult, but like, I kind of agree with him. I don't. I think the way the studio system is, it really is kind of strangling artistic freedom in lots of ways.
It's
It's
more
not.
formulaic.
Yeah, because I know that specific clip from Regular Show or Close Enough or whatever. it made some really dumb arguments. It was like saying that superhero movies are like folklore, and I'm like, listen, I can understand saying superhero comics are like folklore, but the movies aren't. Like, it's not folklore if one company owns everything. It kind of defeats the point of folklore. Folklore is like public domain, like Robin Hood or Sherlock Holmes. That's modern folklore, because anyone can add to that, huh?
Yeah.
Like, speaking of Sherlock, BBC Sherlock, this TV show called Elementary, the Guy Ritchie Sherlock Holmes movies were all coming out at the same time, and they all had very different ideas of what Sherlock was. And there's House MD also. That's a Sherlock show, if you didn't know.
I have not seen that. And I
I
know I
saw
should.
I saw one season. That was pretty good. It's like a procedural, but doctors. Yeah. Other than that, uh, Zack Snyder's Justice League, they released some stuff. That's pretty cool. That's gonna come out in like a month. I'm not a fan of Zack Snyder, but I am gonna watch that movie. And yeah, other than that, I mean, if we're gonna talk about comic books, I guess I don't know. Attack on Titan season 4 is ending soon,
Wait, they made a
and the
season
series.
4?
Yeah, it started like in December.
Alright, I'm gonna be real. I only saw the first season years ago.
Yeah, here's the thing: when season 3 finished, I decided to binge the show. Season 1 is the weakest season. I think season 2 and 3 are amazing. I love season 2 and 3. Those are 10 out of 10s to me. Those, I think it's a very good show. Talks about the dangers of fascism, which some people have somehow confused for being pro-fascist, which I don't really understand. Lots of people bring up this one tweet the author said, but I later found out that the author didn't even make that tweet. That was one of his fans or something that someone confused because they don't speak Japanese. So yeah, I don't think the show's pro-fascist, but people think it is,
I'm
and I
s-
I really don't get why, because it's so blatantly anti-fascist. FMA is more. I would, if someone confused FMA as pro-fascist, I would get that because like technically the main characters are the Nazis. It's more complicated than that, obviously, but on a technical level, yeah, Roy Mustang did commit genocide. If people are able to give that show, like the nuance, but they aren't willing to give Attack on Titan like that same level of nuance, like I don't know, I think it's weird. Yeah. Anyway, enough about the comic book stuff. Let's talk about gangster movies, Hong Kong and American. So the movie we're talking about today is The Departed. Pretty sure I already mentioned that, but whatever. It's directed by Martin Scorsese, who I would argue is, if not the best American director, he is definitely the most important. He's like the quintessential American director.
I can agree
Like if
with the
you,
important part considering his repertoire.
yeah, I would argue like if I was gonna show someone from another country like a director's catalog to represent our country, it would be Scorsese's because he's got a good variety and he really kind of covers a lot of topics to cover America, like a lot about religion, a lot about immigration, and this movie very much talks about our contentious relationship with the police. I think Jack Nicholson's character Frank says at one point, which is kind of a big theme of the movie, is that people talks about cops and criminals, but when you're looking down the barrel of a gun, what's the difference?
That was definitely one of the best lines in the film.
The whole thing is about corrupt cops. So yeah. This was interestingly enough, Scorsese's first Oscar win. This was the first time he won Best Director. He actually swept the Oscars. Won four. He won for Best Directing, Best Adapted Screenplay, Best Picture, and Best Editing. I have a lot to say about that later. We'll get to that. Guess more background information. This is an adaptation of the Hong Kong crime movie Infernal Affairs. It mostly adapts the first one, but apparently it does adapt a bit of the second one. I've only seen the first one, so I can only comment on that. It stars Tony Leung. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but
I
I've seen
wouldn't know.
several of his movies. I think he's one of Hong Kong's best actors. He is an amazing actor. Good lord. But people talk about Leonardo DiCaprio being one of the best actors. This guy's better than Leo in this movie too. I'll talk about that later. Even though I do think this movie is a poor adaptation, it is one of the better foreign film adaptations. For being fair, America doesn't have a good track record there. The only director I can think of who's pretty good at adapting foreign stuff is David Fincher. He's adapted a couple. The girl with the dragon tattoo. I think he adapted that from like Sweden or something. In House of
Something
Cards.
like
That's a
that.
British. House of Cards is an adaptation of like a British show. Well, anyway, I've talked quite a bit. So not Patrick. Patrick's not here. Lugia, what is your thoughts on the movie? Your
Going
general
into
thoughts.
this, I wasn't really huge on Scorsese. I haven't really seen a whole lot of his movies. And I think after watching The Departed, I enjoyed it. I wouldn't say it's like the most groundbreaking film I've ever seen, but it did have some elements that kept me interested. The actually no, I'll get to that with what I like, but for the most part, I found it an enjoyable experience.
Uh, I'd say the same. I'm gonna shit on this movie a lot throughout this thing, but I do think it's on its own. It stands on its own pretty well. There's a lot of holes in it, and I've got a lot of issues with like the editing and stuff. But overall, I think it's a pretty enjoyable movie. My main issues with it is just I just think it's worse than the original. I think the direction is pretty good. It's very well shot. Some of the performances are really well done. I think Jack Nicholson really steals the show.
Jack Nicholson is probably the best part of that film for me. Matt Damon was also pretty good as well.
Yeah, I think Matt Damon's pretty good. I do think his character is less complex than the original, but I think his acting is very good. See, what I find interesting is that about this movie is that I think every single award that he won for this movie should have gone to Goodfellas. You've seen Goodfellas?
No, I haven't.
Oh, yeah. I'd argue Goodfellas is one of the best movies of all time. It's my second favorite from him, only bested by King Comedy, which is arguably a bit more obscure. So to most people, it's his best movie, Goodfellas. It's comparable to like The Godfather of its scale and whatnot. It basically tells like the entirety of a gangster's life. It's pretty great, yeah. Inspired The Sopranos, if you've ever seen that show.
I know Elias has, and he loves that show to death.
Yeah, I've seen the first season. I haven't finished it, but I really like what I saw. Um but yeah, I was like when I was researching this, I noticed like coincidentally Scorsese in 1991 was nominated for every single category this movie was nominated in, and it lost every single category to Dances with Wolves. The same movie it lost in every category. I'm like, is Dances with Wolves that great of a movie? From what I've heard, it's just like Avatar, but with regular people instead of blue cats.
Well, viewers
I
say otherwise.
mean, I guess, but I'd argue that culturally, Goodfellas has lasted a lot more than Dances with Wolves has, because I've never heard anyone talk about Dances with Wolves except in the context of comparing it to Avatar or Pocahontas.
Maybe at the time.
Yeah, I guess maybe at the time. Apparently Kevin Costner was the director. And I'd also argued like I don't think this movie deserved any of its awards because like it got nominated for Best Picture. I'll admit I have not seen most of the Best Picture nominations, but the one I have seen, Little Miss Sunshine, I think Little Miss Sunshine's a better movie than Departed.
I feel
And
like
for
other movies that came out during that time would have done a bit better than this one. Again, it was
yeah,
still good. I don't think it was the best it could be though.
yeah, and like I'll relent. Yeah, Thor give Scorsese Best Director. It's overdue. I don't think he deserves it for this movie, but I'm not upset about Scorsese winning Best Director. Best Adapted Screenplay though, I think that's bullshit because I think the screenplay is a mess, and I think as an adaptation, it's poor. That's the one I'm probably most annoyed at. I think that should have gone to Children of Men.
Is there
Uh,
anything specifically that the adaptation does wrong?
oh yeah, and I'm going to talk about that when we later down the road. I wrote a very long list.
Okay.
And the last award it got was editing, which I generally think the editing is very bad. I also think that should have gone to Children of Men. If you've seen that movie's editing is pretty damn good. You know, a lot of long shots too. All right, before I become a negative Nancy, let's talk about the positives of what we like. Lugia, what did you like?
I don't really have much to say, specifically because I'm not familiar with the original version, but I think I said it before already. I liked a lot of the major cast. Obviously, Matt Damon, Jack Nicholson stole the show. Leonardo DiCaprio was pretty good in the movie as well. He's not my favorite actor by any means, but he did a good job. Martin
I
Sheen
really,
was also in there, right?
yeah. I really like Leonardo DiCaprio, but I feel like lots of people think he was always a great actor. I always felt like he was a kind of a shitty actor for a while. Then he got pretty good in this sort of middle ground sort of thing, and then he became amazing.
I think
I
he
think this
was
movie came out
good.
right in the middle ground because, like, I think his first good movie was like Catch Me If You Can. I think that was he did a really good job in that movie, but like before that, I don't know. I didn't really like a lot of his movies. I haven't seen Titanic, so he might have done a good job there. But like,
That's probably his most popular movie he was in.
I mean, yeah, isn't it like the third highest grossing movie of all time?
Something like that, yeah. Actually, no, I think it's the second.
No, I mean no. Avatar is now the second.
No, Titanic.
No, that's Avatar beat Titanic
I know that.
as highest grossing, and then Avengers Endgame beat.
Wait,
You know what?
Avengers Endgame beat Avatar?
Yeah,
Wait, since when?
since like when Avengers Endgame came out.
No fucking way.
Yeah, no, Avengers Endgame is the highest grossing movie of all time.
Hold up, let me look this up.
I don't think like if you account inflation, I'm pretty sure like Gone with the Wind and Star Wars beat it, but like without inflation, yeah, it's Endgame.
Where's the list? Oh my god, it is.
Okay, let's see. Going through his thing. So Romeo plus Juliet. Yeah, I thought that movie sucked. Titanic. Man with the Iron Mask.
Don't even get me
Okay.
started on Romeo and Juliet.
Okay, yeah. So I think Leo started being good right around Catch Me If You Can. Apparently he was in Gangs in New York before Catch Me If You Can, so he might have been good in that one, but 2002. 2002 is when I think Leo started becoming a good actor, and I guess The Departed was just Departed and Aviator. They were his next two movies after that. So yeah. This is right in that transitional period where Leo started to become a good actor, but he didn't become a great actor. I don't think he became a great actor till Shutter Island.
It was certainly recognized before that period.
Yeah, I'd say Shutter Island, Inception. 2010 is when Leo became a really good actor because he was amazing in Django Unchained and Wolf of Wall Street and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, all that stuff. Really great in those. But yeah, in this movie, it was okay.
There were definitely
Um,
others that stood out over him.
yeah. For what I liked, I'm gonna have to go into spoiler territories. So, spoiler alert. We haven't actually talked about any spoilers so far, but yeah, spoiler alert. My favorite part about the movie is when Leo got shot in the head. I don't mean that like I don't like. No, I mean like that's genuinely like a very one of the most shocking twists I've seen. Like
It was
I
a
did
nice
not
twist.
expect that. Yeah, the first time I saw it, I didn't expect it, and even like the second. This is my second time watching it. It was still like startled me. I was like, oh shit! Like I forgot just how blunt it was. I think the soundtrack was really great. They used Dropkick Murphys "Shipping Up to Boston" really well. Um, they use "Gimme Shelter" a lot. This is a minor pet peeve of mine, but I think "Gimme Shelter" is used in so many movies
I don't blame
that
you.
it kind of annoys me when I see it now. I already mentioned Jack Nicholson, Matt Damon, and that really good line when you're looking down the barrel of the gun doesn't really matter. But all right, now to talk about what
Actually,
I.
I have one more thing to add on things we liked.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
Considering this was my first time watching the movie, I didn't know how things would turn out. The ending with the twists, I definitely enjoyed that a lot, even if it was like out of nowhere. But what really kept me interested was after the first hour, where you start realizing that Leonardo DiCaprio and Matt Damon are pretty much working together and not together at the same time,
Yeah,
where they're
yeah,
they're both trying to achieve the same thing but on different sides of the law, and then it becomes this whole suspense-filled experience where it becomes like who finds out who's the rat. I think that whole dynamic was the best part of the movie easily, and it kept me interested throughout.
Okay, so now what we didn't like. I feel like this might be an obvious one because I've heard lots of people criticize this, even people who like the movie. But the whole girlfriend subplot with the love triangle thing, that was weird, right? That was unnecessary.
I can kind of see what they were going for, where she
Yeah,
was conflicted with if she wanted to
Yeah,
stay with Matt Damon or not, because
yeah.
eventually she found out that he works for Jack Nicholson. I'm sorry, I don't remember the names of the original characters.
Uh, his name was Frank Costello.
I'm gonna call him Jack Nicholson. It's just
Oh,
easier.
yeah, okay, yeah.
There was definitely potential there, but it wasn't
Yeah,
as fleshed out as it should have been. And like you
yeah.
said, it was kind of
I
there.
noticed that this movie had this fatherhood subplot throughout the whole thing, and I think the girlfriend was like played a part of it because like there was a fatherhood angle with Jack Nicholson and Matt Damon, and the fatherhood angle with Leo and Matt Damon. Both of them like their dads weren't really present in their lives, and the girlfriend got pregnant, and we're not sure who's the dad. Is it Leo or Matt Damon? So like,
I think
I
Matt Damon, because she slept with him.
I mean he slept with Leo too. Remember?
I don't remember actually.
She slept with Leo, and there's a thing with Matt Damon where he was kind of like he had erectile dysfunction or he was impotent or something. Yeah, Matt Damon's character was like sterile. I think they were
Why
implying
do I
that.
not remember that?
Some of it is like kind of like just quick lines of dialogue. I do remember there's a kind of funny line where like some dude was like, "Oh, you enjoy fucking your girlfriend?" And he was like, "Yeah," and he said like the most awkward way. Is like, "Yeah, yeah, I have sex all the time."
I
Something
get
like I don't
mad
remember the exact
pussy.
line. Yeah, it was hilarious. Anyway, I noticed in your notes you kind of agree with me. The editing, especially in the first hour or so, was really confusing. Like they edit this montage in the beginning where they make you think that Matt Damon and Leo, at least to me, I got confused. And I thought it seemed like they were in the same class because they showed Leo start like around the same time, but then at some point throughout the montage, Leo's still in the academy and the Matt's like working. I'm like, okay, so is this like a couple years gap? And apparently I heard like in an earlier draft of the script, yeah, these are actually meant to be two separate things, but they just in the editing room, I guess they just combined it into a montage, and it got really confusing. I guess made sense after the fact, but like in the moment, I was like, oh wait, what's going on? How
That
did they not
first
know each other?
hour was the biggest hurdle of the movie for me.
Yeah. Also lots of weird continuity. Like I feel like sometimes I feel like this like scenes were like out of order, and it was like there's never off enough where like I didn't know what was going on, but it was always off enough where like it distracted me, like it took me out of it for a
You
little bit.
were essentially seeing two sides of the story at the same time. The placement
Yeah,
was a little confusing, though.
yeah, but sometimes it was just like on one side, like they misorder the scenes. I felt, and it was like, huh, that's weird. Like with the investigation of the rat thing, like I'm pretty sure Matt Damon said that they're investigating a rat before he was actually told that they were investigating a rat, which happened like in a later scene. I'm like, wait, how do you? I was like, wait, what's going on there then? I'm like, I don't know, it's weird. I don't remember like the specifics, but like something like
Considering
that.
Matt was working for Jack Nicholson, he was trying to cover up the fact that he was the rat, at least in the
Yeah,
police
I know.
department.
Okay, so there was a lot of choices that didn't make sense here, but did make sense um in the original. Well, actually, there's just some stuff that doesn't make sense here within its own thing. So I'll start there. I don't understand why Frank trusts Leo's character. It makes no sense.
All he did was break his arm and tell him he's not a cop.
Apparently, like I thought there because of the fatherhood angle, they were like, oh, maybe Frank sees him as a son. But I was like, I don't know, it's weird. Like they didn't really like the fatherhood angle was incredibly like kind of loose. Like I get apparently in earlier drafts it was said that Frank was apparently Leo's dad's like best friend and that he's actually Leo's godfather. And I'm like, oh, okay, that makes sense. So like, all right, if like he considers him family of sorts, of course he's gonna be like, oh, it can't be him. He can't be the rat. He's like denial and even makes sense because in one scene, like Frank tells Leo, hey, why don't you go to school or something? You could, actually, become something. But that was cut from the movie, so I can't use that as an excuse. Like they didn't have that plot point in, so they just caused a bunch of really confusing motivation with Frank. And I was like, all right, I mean, I guess I can accept it, but it's weird. All right,
You know who else
all
we
right,
forgot to mention in the movie?
who?
Mark Wahlberg.
I'm gonna bring him up soon. Don't
Okay.
worry. So in the original, they didn't have the fatherhood angle or any of that, but what they still did to make it make sense why he was trusted is that Leo's character or Tony Lung's character, he was undercover for like 4 years already, like he was already undercover before he got into Frank's crew. So like he was just considered like a regular gangster, like to most people. So he was just like, oh, this guy's been in the game for a long time. So everyone trusted him because he's one of the older members of like the crew. But in this one, like he's like brand new, which I think is there's something taken from Infernal Affairs 2, because Infernal Affairs 2, that's showing like when Leo's character was like first undercover, and he even has a therapist in that movie. Um, so I think they try to combine those two movies while like not realizing that it doesn't make sense to combine those two movies. Here's another weird plot point. I don't know why Frank was an FBI informant. That added nothing.
That
Like,
kind of just went over my head. I almost forgot about that plot point
yeah, it seemed
completely.
like yeah. I apparently the character, like the real life gangster that Frank was based off, was an FBI informant. So that's why they put it in there. But like in the actual movie, the only reason like it really doesn't play into anything. Like they just loosely say, "Oh, they were gonna turn you into the FBI." I'm like, but that doesn't make sense. Like
Is it just
that's
another reason for Matt Damon to shoot him?
yeah, and that's the next point I want to mention. This is the part that really killed the movie for me in terms of adaptation. Is that Matt Damon's character is a lot less compelling in the original. So in the original,
In
the man's
in the
racked.
original or less compelling than the original?
He's less compelling than the original. And now I'm
Gotcha.
going to
Okay,
talk
I
about
misheard
what was
that.
in the original. So in the original, his character was actually racked with guilt, and his decision to turn on the gang member was because he actually had enough of being a criminal and he wanted to be a good person now. But then he got found out and he had to kill an innocent man that he actually kind of liked, and all this shit happened. When in Matt Damon's character, the only reason he killed Frank was just out of self-preservation. I'm like, that's far less compelling. It's not like this man that's really like torn up inside that is like, I don't want to be a bad guy anymore. I want to be a good cop. It's just a dude that kills a guy so he doesn't get caught. I'm like, it's not nearly as interesting. You don't know why the movie's called Infernal Affairs? Because the entire point is an allusion to hell. The entire idea is that Matt Damon's character is stuck in hell. Yeah, that's another weird thing. I think this movie they try to make it where Leo's character is the main character. In the original, Matt Damon's character is the main character.
With that idea of hell, I can kind of see that. Not from the
Yeah,
movie, but from the original adaptation.
yeah, and major spoiler for Infernal Affairs. I'm sorry, Lugia, but I'm gonna have to spoil you for this. Um, Matt Damon's character doesn't die in the original.
But Leonardo DiCaprio's does?
That part stays the same, yeah. But
Okay.
I want to specifically mention Matt Damon's character because the entire point of the movie was that he lives because he has to forever be in guilt, forever be this criminal. He's got an innocent person's death on his conscience when he tried to become good. Like the whole point is that that's the whole thing with the title. He's forever in hell because he got out too late. He is forever going to be racked with covering up this thing,
And that's
killing
why we
innocent.
have a trilogy.
Kind of. The second movie is actually a prequel,
Oh,
and then the third movie is like half a sequel, half a prequel. But yeah,
what? But don't double dip. Just make a sequel. Not.
I mean, apparently all three movies are good from what I heard, so they must have pulled it off.
I'll believe it when I see it.
But yeah, and of course, since we're talking about how Matt Damon died in this movie, let's talk about Dignam or Mark Wahlberg's character. Also, minor little pet peeve. Mark Wahlberg's character is called Dignam here. When in Boogie Nights, he plays Dirk Diggler. So I got the names confused. I keep getting the names confused. So if I say Diggler, I mean Dignam. Okay, so Mark Wahlberg's character, he was not in the original movie. I don't know why he was added here. I think he was just added here so he could kill Matt Damon at the end. That's his only point because once the other guy dies, Mark Wahlberg's character is just gone for the whole movie. So his character is entirely pointless.
You mean
He does
Martin Sheen's
nothing.
character when he dies?
Yeah, when Martin Sheen's character dies, Mark Wahlberg's character he quits. He leaves the movie, and
I
it
guess
doesn't
that
make
gives
sense.
him some motivation to kill Matt Damon.
I mean, but that's like the weird thing. Like his character literally is just Martin Sheen's sidekick the whole movie, and then the only other thing he does is kill Matt Damon's character. And since I already said that Matt Damon dying misses the whole point, Mark Wahlberg's character shouldn't be in the movie. It's completely useless. He's a completely pointless character. And I would argue he adds plot holes because why the hell does Leo not just call Dignam? If Dignam was there, Leo's character wouldn't have died.
Because he doesn't like him.
Yeah,
Because
but like
Dignam
that
is
doesn't make
kind of an
sense.
asshole in the film.
Yeah, but let's be real. Like if I was Leo, I would have just gone straight to Mark Wahlberg, told him everything I knew because again, he's still a cop. He's found out the rat. Like it's not like I mean, we saw from the end of the movie that Dignam did kill Matt Damon's character, so obviously, like he should have just gone to him. But instead, he called like this other cop, and he told that cop to get Dignam. And I'm like, well, why didn't you just go get Dignam yourself? Why did you even leave the police station? Like you could have just like told everyone there. Like
Because Leo is lazy.
another thing is like why did Matt Damon even delete Leo's file? Like
That part I didn't
Leo was
understand as well. I
Leo
thought that
was
would play
in
a
the
bigger role in the ending of the movie, but it didn't. It just happened.
yeah, because he deleted the file, but then at the end of the movie, like everyone knows that Leo's a cop again. I'm like, well, how the hell did you explain to people why the file was deleted? How did you explain to people that why you were even there?
Is it supposed to represent that he's his next target?
No, I just it doesn't make sense. And another thing is that like I don't even know what Matt Damon was thinking deleting the file because like everyone saw Leo's character in the police station. Like everyone who was at the police station should have known that oh Leo's the undercover guy. Anyone that's not an idiot would have pieced that together, but like I don't know. Also, why does Matt Damon kill the second guy? See, in the original movie, what happened is that Leo's character, Tony Lung's character, wasn't an idiot. He actually did call the police. So the police, they were at the first floor when Matt Damon's character, like, so he was gonna take Matt Damon's character down, but then, Tony Lung he got shot in the head. So what that character's thought process then was that he was gonna kill this second rat, and then when he would go down, he would tell them that the second rat, did all this shit and he'd be like, "Oh, there was only one rat. It was a second rat." It made sense in the original one. I'm trying to say, but in this one, it doesn't make sense. He could have kept the other guy alive because there was no one there to arrest him.
I kind of
And
took it as he's done with being with Jack Nicholson and he didn't want to go back.
no, I'm not talking about Jack Nicholson. I'm talking about the very end
Yeah, I know.
with the
That's what I
second
mean.
guy.
That's why he shot the second guy.
Jack Nicholson was already dead,
He
so it
was a
doesn't
part of his
matter.
gang, though.
Yeah, but like they were both. That guy said, "Oh, we need to protect each other, so we don't
And
get
that's what I'm
arrested."
saying. He didn't want to go back.
They weren't going back. The gang was over. He was just like,
Oh. Can you tell this is only the first time I've seen this movie?
And apparently Leo was nominated for Best Actor this year, which I don't get because I think he didn't do nearly as good a job.
Not
Um,
compared with Nicholson and Damon, no.
oh wait, no, Leo was nominated for Best Actor, but not for this movie. He was nominated for Blood Diamond, which I think is kind of funny.
Oh.
Like man, even the Academy thought that your performance was better in some other movie, and this is a Scorsese movie. Like man, I think one of my main problems with Leo's performance is that he constantly acts like he's on edge, and I'm like, listen, man, everyone's gonna think you're undercover if you're gonna act like that. What's wrong with you? Also, after Martin Sheen's character died, there's this one dude that told Leo, "I knew that you were the undercover cop," but then he doesn't tell anyone, and I'm like, I didn't realize they were friends. Like, I guess they were trying to say they were friends or something, but I'm like, hey, you don't really,
I think that's another detail I skipped
yeah,
over.
that's a weird detail. Oh, here's a minor thing. I for some reason always get Matt Damon and Mark Wahlberg's characters confused. I didn't so far, thank God, but like that was a pain in the ass the first time I saw this movie.
Honestly, I kind of went through that same phase. Because I thought Mark Wahlberg was the main character, and then I looked at the cast list to assure myself, and I'm like, wait, what? No, he isn't.
And let's see. If I'm gonna give one thing that I do think is better in this movie than the original is it is visually better. I think it's a better directed movie. But that's really it. I just think the direction is better. I don't think the editing or acting is or anything like that.
So one more thing I don't like about the movie, and again, I might be missing out on a detail or two, because both Leonardo DiCaprio and Matt Damon were working like on the same operation, why doesn't Matt Damon know that Leo is the undercover cop?
Oh no, that one is explained actually. Martin Sheen's character Indignum, they're the only people that has access to the undercover agents. That is exclusively their department. They do not tell anyone else in the department because they're under the impression that there's a rat in the department. So they're not going to tell anyone their information because they don't know who the rat is.
Okay.
So they don't want to jeopardize. So yeah, that one isn't a plot hole. That one actually is explained in the movie.
Okay, so I'm just dumb.
Well, I guess what would you give your final rating?
Um, I'd give it an 8 out of 10. Again, I enjoyed it for the most part. There were a few things that I wasn't really too keen on here and there.
Yeah. I'm gonna give it a 6 out of 10. Because I don't think it's a bad movie. I do think on its own it stands as pretty good, but I don't personally enjoy it that much, so I'm gonna give it a 6 out of 10. And in my Martin Scorsese ranking, it is at the bottom. It is my least favorite Scorsese movie so far. Although I will admit, I have not apparently seen what his bad movies are yet. I've only seen, the stuff people like, so yeah.
One day.
Okay, and now let's get to the movie recommendations. So, movies that are pretty similar to it is Infernal Affairs trilogy. Pretty obviously that one, considering it's an adaptation of them. But I would also recommend Hard Boiled, which is another Hong Kong movie about undercover cops, also starring Tony Leung. It's in my opinion one of the best action movies ever made. It's John Woo's real breakout movie. It's amazing. Highly recommend it. Also recommend Reservoir Dogs because I would argue because one it's about undercover cops too, but I'd argue Tarantino dialogue and Scorsese's dialogue are kind of similar at times, and they both also use pop music in similar ways. So yeah, pretty similar. Um, I'd also recommend City on Fire, which is the movie that Reservoir Dogs was based off of. City on Fire, I'd say, is even closer to The Departed, because it's got a lot more to do with the undercover stuff, and the ending also fits more of how The Departed did its ending. I mean, its ending is pretty similar to Reservoir Dogs' ending, but like because the entire first hour and a half is completely different, you know, it fits more into The Departed. I'd say City on Fire next to Infernal Affairs is probably closest. I also do The Untouchables because it's a mob movie, but it's from the cops' perspective rather than the gangsters, so there's some aspects there. Also, the movie Heat, which stars Al Pacino and Robert De Niro. That one is another cop mob movie, but we see both sides of the conflicts. We follow, both the cop and the gangster.
So kind of
Just
like
kind of
this
similar
movie.
to this. Yeah, this one there isn't like a switcheroo. It's just pretty straightforward. The cop versus the criminal, but still.
Okay.
I'd recommend Boondock Saints because it's got a very Tarantino-esque feel, but it takes place in Boston. It is incredibly Boston. It's probably the most Boston movie there is. So, if you like the Bostonian aspects of The Departed, check out Boondock Saints. Also recommend Shutter Island because it's another Scorsese movie that stars Leo, and Leo plays a man that gets more and more unhinged, just like in this movie. I'd also recommend The Irishman because it's same director, covers the Irish mob, but I guess this one goes more of a this one's more complimentary to Scorsese's catalog. I have not seen Gangs of New York, but I've heard a lot of people compare to this, particularly because it's about the same director who really explores the city, and also it's about an Irish immigrant going undercover in a gang. So the other undercover stuff and the Irish stuff, Then Black Klansman, which is about an undercover cop, and there's a lot of tension because the KKK suspects this dude's an undercover cop. I mean, technically it's two cops going undercover, but still. And also, there's enemies on the police side with some of the police members possibly being racist too. Then Face Off. I'd argue this movie is actually closer than Hard Boiled is. Same director as Hard Boiled. This one has the villain and the hero. They kind of switch places with the villain being the cop and the hero being the criminal. Kind of. It's a lot more complicated because this is like a sci-fi movie almost too. But yeah, it's got that Hong Kong cinema vibe to it and the whole switcheroo. I have not seen Donnie Brasco or Serpico, but I've heard both of them have to do with going undercover. And apparently, Serpico was supposed to be directed by Scorsese, but he passed up. Let's see, Mystic River,
Who's
that
it
has to
directed
do with
by instead?
I think Sidney Lumet or Robert Altman. Let me double check. Serpico is apparently a classic, though, and I am a fan of the director's work because I have seen the Sidney Lumet. Yeah,
Okay.
he directed four movies I've seen. Network is an amazing movie. Highly recommend Network. Before the Devil Knows You're Dead, Murder on the Orient Express, and Death Trap. I'll talk about Sidney Lumet someday, but for a quick rundown, if you like I don't know, Aaron Sorkin, you might like Network. Apparently Network is Sorkin's favorite movie. If you like the Coen brothers, you'll like Before the Devil Knows You're Dead. If you like Knives Out or murder mystery movies, Murder on the Orient Express, that's an obvious one. And same for Death Trap, because Death Trap is another murder mystery type.
I'll have to check that out then.
I'd say Murder on the Orient Express is actually my least favorite from that group, but Murder on the Orient Express is also apparently a classic, so, you know.
I have seen Knives Out, so I kind of know what I'm getting into.
Yeah, Murder on the Orient Express was written by Agatha Christie, who was like, she's the lady who created the whole murder mystery genre. Knives Out is very blatantly inspired by Agatha Christie, so yeah. Mystic River, apparently that's a Boston crime movie. I haven't seen it though. And my last recommendation is Shark Tale.
Why?
If we're being technical, it is a mob movie, and it is about technically a dude. He's like an imposter. He's playing like Will Smith's character. He's not who he really is, and he can't let people find out who he really is. So it's kind of got a similar undercover vibe here. Plus, the mobster's son, he also goes undercover as like a dolphin and stuff. So it's got an undercover mob movie feel to it if you're being technical, you know.
Of all things you could recommend, though, Shark Tale?
I don't know if one of our viewers has kids. Shark Tale is a movie that everyone needs to see at least once in their life, all right?
I've seen it. Trust me, I've seen it, but that was years ago, and I don't remember liking it.
We all saw it when we were kids. Well, anyway, time for next week's recommendation.
Since we don't have Elias and Patrick here, I guess it's gonna go to me. Or
I guess, yeah.
Okay, so what are we in the mood for?
Well, I'm thinking that we should do something different every week. So
Oh, I know what we can do different. How do you feel about The Room?
We're not doing The Room, man. Come on.
Oh, come on. You're no fun.
We will do The Room one day. If you're gonna suggest a so bad it's good movie, at least do one that we haven't all seen.
Alright, fine. Which ones are out there, actually?
Oh, also, if you guys want to see more modern movie, because we can talk about two movies. One Night in Miami is on Amazon Prime, which is I've heard a lot of buzz on it. So if you have Amazon Prime, maybe check that one. That's like a modern movie.
Oh, I haven't seen Samurai Cop.
Neither have I. I haven't seen Samurai Cop either. Okay, that's our next one. Next week, Samurai Cop.
All right.
So, if you haven't seen Samurai Cop and you're listening in, listen to Samurai Cop. I don't think our first episode is even up though yet, so obviously we don't have a Q&A or any audience, so I don't know why I'm saying this, but hypothetically.
One of these days we will get around to The Room. Mark my words.
No, we won't.
Yes, we will.
Oh fuck, this movie's leaving March 1st? Shit. Alright, well, okay. Yeah, Samurai Cop. Next week. See ya.